drops, and that is so hard. But the plane is up and in the air, and we're moving into our last Erangel match of the day. And let's see if it maintains that spicy nature that we saw last time around. Plane path coming up from the north, back down towards the south. Have pretty much everything on the table if you want to go for the drops, but I know we're going to be keeping an eye over towards Pachinki because that's where a lot of the fun has been occurring.
Yeah, indeed. And we saw Liquid pull off a little bit towards the north here in game number 1, and game number 2 deciding to fight a little bit closer to Pachinki. We'll see where they decide to go this time around. Looks like Genesis still has no reason to want to pull off of where they've been dropping. And Entis Force as well feels comfortable, but that is a lot of names right there.
That is a Crow Crowd member right on top of that. Are they going? Is he going over and potentially going to steal away one of those vehicles along that road? Is that his goal that he's going for? Atletico kind of mixing it up with Liquid as they're going for the drops. Everybody's kind of fighting over vehicles. Once you move into this area, it gets a lot more difficult. So everybody's wanting to claim those as early as they can. See EB hitting the ground, going for the roll. Going to get picked up probably by Empty there. But now we've got Genesis making their drop as well as Force fairly separated out. Wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of friendly off the get-go when already getting that vehicle and getting under control.
Yeah, both Genesis and Force playing this really, really carefully, playing it close to the vest, not overextending. You see a couple of shots being traded back and forth. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Let's
right
take it.
there. Move it back down towards military. Make it spicy for me. Make it evil. I want to see these guys sweat.
And of course it had to be in game number 3, our last game here on Erangel before heading over to Sanhok. We're going to see the Wicked's already making his way over there, but check in on
I got such a big kick out of that.
You got a big old smile on your face here.
All of the audience being like, yeah, and you heard all the players be like, oh, at the exact same time. So easy rotations for the teams that were playing back down towards the south and were the late droppers based off the plane path. But teams way up towards the north, like Sun Sister, they're going to have a trek ahead of them.
Look at AFF, Lambu, actually. AFF with a really late drop here. Looks like they might actually be long stretching it over to Novo to get a foothold early off. I mean, we know that TSM in Milta, but yeah, eyes right now on 4 a.m.
So with
currently
this,
leading the lobby.
Do we still call them 4 angry men? With the amount of votes, I feel like we need to call them like 500,000 angry men at this point. They are just getting so many votes on these PGC's pick'ems. But AFF slow dropping back over here.
It's almost 3 minutes into the game and Lambo's still in his parachute, man.
Hey, he's just wanting to take in the scenery. I mean, you know, whenever you come to LA, you got to take in the sights.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He is taking it in. He is going to be joined up by his squad mate NN. And just off to their west, we can see Michael making his way over to secure TSM a foothold.
I like that.
At the intersection. Yeah, I like the aggressive behavior here, the foresight here from TSM to start making their move over even before they finish the looting up in Milta.
So most of the teams are going to be making the gamble that it's going to be going towards military base. We have seen it end on bridges sometimes with circles. Oh, close to bridges. They can't end on bridges.
Man, how evil are you?
That evil. I mean, I'm that guy, but you can see TSM, they're still up in Milta with 3, but they did send Michael back down south across the bridge to go ahead and claim that crossroads location, which can be quite strong, especially if you're trying to get kills. Most people are going to try to avoid the bridge as much as possible, but there's always going to be that one team that gets caught on the other side and eventually has to make that push over.
Yeah, it's not like we're above bridge camping here at the PGC group stages. We saw T1 pull that off in Sanhok yesterday, so see if Sanyang actually making a move over here, seeing if he can maybe get a cheeky couple shots into Genesis. The shot's coming out. Gonna land a couple, but not gonna be enough to get the down, and Genesis getting on out of dodge.
This is very common for them. They like to rotate very, very early. Force tends to be a little bit latecomer inside that.
It's 2 cars too.
Yeah,
that might be why Force was pushing the issue.
I mean, with the amount of teams that have been dropping this location now, since Team Liquid is playing a little bit further towards the north, that makes cars a lot more of a commodity for anybody that's around that Pachinki area, because we did see also Crow Crowd taking a vehicle off on that western side, so that's just going to make it more difficult for Force to make their way through this.
Take a look at the boys from Latin America. W-Click currently sitting in 14th place. They need a good game here. They've already made their way to the beachhead. TSM going to be joining up with the rest of their squad. Michael actually has abandoned the intersection and headed in towards the military base. So TSM maybe deciding to opting to play from a different position here.
There are a lot of strong positions you can play back down towards the southern part of military base. That's no surprise. Alo making the trek over here on the boat. Fun fact is he's the only one in that boat. Everybody else is still around Yasnaya right now, so I think he's trying to secure it. Everybody else is going to grab a vehicle real fast and probably meet him along the coast, maybe around Lippo. But the way he's moving, I don't even know if that's going to be the strategy.
Yeah, he's definitely out in the middle of nowhere. Rumblers, meanwhile, have gathered here in Lipovka, found the one boat, and they're going to start their trek.
We're just going to go ahead and do a full Navy battle.
Yeah, why
looks
not?
like everybody's just going to be in boats this game, cutting across here. Another boat. That's kind of the theme right now, but that means every single time one of these boats drops away, it's going to make it much harder to cross that canal that's north of military base. So this is vital information. I love the fact that we're seeing every single boat that's getting claimed, because these late teams in rotation are just going to have less resources, and it's going to make it much more difficult. They're going to have to make some hard choices on how to handle the circuit.
Already worth noting that Sun Sister looks like they might have come up just behind Lazarus and not have found a boat. So Alo managed to get the one that was up there. We check on Genesis, making their way across the bridge. W-Click not in position just yet, but Detonator already has a nice 2-1-1 split here. They got two at the intersection at the...
And we also have W-Click that has moved into a position on that hill. So that's going to be two different teams that if anybody goes across that western bridge have to contend with. So Genesis early rotation out of Pachinki paying off big for them, as nobody was really set up yet to full defend that point.
And they still got left with a pretty decent location to hold here with the hillside just to the west of that bridge. We'll check in with 4 a.m. as they made their way across. AHQ, they're going to find a boat in Primorsk, and they're going to go 4 deep. They do have Crow Crowd making their way around just on the other side of the coast, though, so have to be careful. TSM has actually already made their way all the way to the southern part of the island, so not really sure what TSM wants to do. Oh, Sun Sister.
We got Sun Sister holding the angle back. We talked about the fact that one of their members from Lazarus is already inside of a boat. That's a tire going out. That's going to spin out the UAZ. Shots are now coming out from Gabba, trying to get more damage. Uncivil's going to go down, but Gabba takes a lot. Purdy Curdy is trying to provide some form of cover for his teammate. Get some covering fire off this. Kandescu going for the reposition off of it. Gabba still going for the shots on it. Low on life. Trying to find the angle, but the UAZ eats the bullet. This is very difficult. Nice shots coming out from Purdy, but he is so low at this point. It is very, very dangerous. Smokes are now starting to come out from Lazarus, but Sun Sister, Lazarus both have to be so careful. The blues coming in. Purdy is in a lot of trouble with this. He does manage to get off the first 8, but Civ does go down.
Yeah, meanwhile, the rest of Lazarus are all in boats. They're bailing on this. They're trying to get into the next circle. The car's on fire. Will it be enough to blow it up? No, Faishan. It's going to go ahead and get the down, and that's Curdy down. And once again, Lazarus losing some early. Now they have managed to make their way to late game and collect quite a few points, even with losing some early. So,
and here's Luke just hanging out, waiting for the, I guess, boat Uber to come around, as Alo is going to be approaching in just a second. But the problem that I see with that is Sun Sister stayed for that fight. They're now out inside the blue. This is a very hard circle to rotate in, and that's going to make it very problematic for them. They're just going to have to be done. They just have leftovers at this point as far as terrain goes. They probably are just going to go ahead and stay on the main island itself and not push down towards military base.
Yeah, I would imagine. They don't have a boat. They still have they all 4 have vehicles, and they just got a nice little influx of meds. So they've got some time to eat that blue. As we check in with the Crow Crowd boys. Happy birthday to that organization, by the way. They released a tweet earlier today saying that this is their actual birthday. So hopefully we see the Crow Crowd boys turn something around here. Not having the best days so far, but as we said, there's still plenty of time.
And this is a big problem, I want to point out, with a lot of these teams that grab boats late, since the early boats and rotations came in being a big factor in this. There's a lot of these teams like TSM that are playing along this coastline, just on the hunt for people in boats, trying to get something out of it. There's also a little bit of congestion up on that western bridge. As you can see, it's Team Liquid. New circle pops. We are going military base, and it's going to be pretty violent. Looks like Force could find themselves in a really bad spot.
Look at the split coming out from TSM, though. They have 3 on the southern coast, and they've sent Rory to the middle to secure a compound. So I imagine that we'll see the TSM boys probably make their way in towards that compound here shortly. Yeah, Michael already in vehicle.
Oh, like, QAM, this is not where you want to be going right now. 4AM has the trap set. Bullets starting flying on both sides of it. You see vehicles starting to bounce into each other. Easy's in a little bit of trouble as he does spin out just a touch. Damage coming through. Look at that. 4AM gets run over. QM is just cutting through this thing. No, we want nothing to do with it. We're out of here.
Such a good camp set up, and in the end, they don't really get much for it. They get 1 down, and now They're going to have to turn around and get the fight going, but we're checking with Liquid. W-Click pushing right on top. It looks like Ragnar is going to pull off of this. 4 Angry Men still taking shots at Ease.
They're quite angry right now. They want some vengeance back on that one. That was supposed to be their kill, and instead they get somebody knocked off of this. So position comes in. Easy did stop over next to 4 Angry Men, as well as the remnants of Lazarus in the similar position from this. Who's taking some long-range shots at him, still at range, connecting with it. Gonna at least make his life very hellacious and gonna have to drop down to his belly. Is he gonna be able to connect with this shot? It's just continuing tap. He has to use smoke and utility now. Waldo's now also on a hunt for Easy off of this. A little bit of damage back and forth.
Yeah, the Rumblers boys came in from the south side of Novo. Looks like they've managed to come up and see Easy here. Nobody, no other lines of sight here. I don't know if they realize that this is basically a 4v1.
QM got the moral victory of making it across the bridge, but having to cut through 4AM separated them to the 4 corners of this island. So it's a lot of 1v4 fights that they're having to contend with. Easy's not having the easiest life right now as Waldo's still holding down. I think Cherry Poppin's starting to figure out, hey, there's only one guy shooting us, so let's just go for a high reposition off of this, and there's going to be nowhere for Easy to hide. Shots are now coming through. You can see the blue as well. Doesn't actually connect with that, so it looks like he's going to go ahead and pull away from this, get into a different position off of it.
Yeah, this is taking Rumblers way too long to deal with this problem. They have the positioning right. They did send Cherry up top. They sent Waldo down low, but no joy just yet. As Layla's going to try to find Forever, but Forever's going to get the better of him there.
4 Angry Men continuing their killing spree. These guys have been so violent in the early games. Waldo still trying to take down Easy. Finally does manage to get it. Gonna go ahead and flush that out. But Rumblers on the tail end of this rotation as well. We mentioned it earlier with Sun Sister. Whenever you're on the tail end of this due to a long fight, that's very problematic for your rotation.
2 hours later, Rumblers finally finishes off that fight. 4 AM, as you said, already in vehicles making their way in. Sun Sister finally making their way across the bridge. They still have 4 strong. They're running right past Luke. Luke,
he's
all
on
control. Foot. Yeah, he's just trying to stay alive here. I believe he might be he's the last one up here now for Lazarus once again. So trying to see if we can make it a little bit further here.
Desu.
Sun Sister.
Got to be very careful. Down to 5 life. Runs over next to 4 Angry Men, and those guys are real mad right now. Still shots coming through. Can he manage to make it through it? No, he does get dropped off that motorcycle, so that's going to be 1 down. Sun Sister now has to readjust off of that. Has to be cautious, but Luke's going to catch out another one. That's 2 members of Sun Sister down.
I mentioned that Sun Sister might have been punching a little bit above their weight class in game number 2, and it looks like it's playing out not as much in their favor this time around. Rumblers going to get a little bit fortunate, make it past the Crow crowd as a new circle has popped, and we are going far west again. About 30%, maybe 40% at most playable here.
Still so much water inside of this, and it's also a very interesting point to play. There's that big hill that's just to the west of the military base. Crazy Sam finding himself in trouble. 4AM's going to go ahead and get that one as well. Sun Sister still reeling off of that late rotation, now down to just 1. Rumblers do manage to go ahead and stop around these airplanes that are wrecked off to the side of it, but everything's still further ahead. They are not yet inside the safe zone, so I guess they're just regrouping at that point.
See the rest of Athletico making their way across the water. They've already got Flood securing the compound for themselves, so nice little come up for them. Surprising that that compound that is actually pretty much dead center of this circle was still unoccupied at this point.
There's a lot of splits that are going on in the circle right now, and with 55 people still alive. Oh, Abisa gets spotted out. Vehicle's now rolling back down. James has to be very careful about that as he's looking back and forth. There's a lot of players at W-Click on this. You can see reinforcements from Team Liquid are coming around one side of it. Zilzin's trying to get the outside push on this, but EB does go down to the grenade. Zilzin trying to play low ground. As you can see, Team Liquid trying to hold the high ground. EB's just trying to get, EB's dead at this point. It's James that's trying to find the right angle for it, but it's all about W-Click playing around these trees. Has to be so careful.
Oh, and Genesis now going to get involved as well. It took a little bit of time for the Twins to come up over the top, Samty and Jempty, to provide James a little support, but that's going to be Indigo from range, getting both shots on both of those players. James now the last remaining player for Liquid as their struggles on Erangel continue.
And remember, it was Liquid that was gatekeeping out Force on this bridge, so Force is coming in late to this, but that provided the perfect angle to do so much damage at Team Liquid right now. We have W-Click with so many members up and alive. James is just trying to figure out, okay, where do I go? He's got a couple, got one last smoke that he can use, but you can hear bullets are just landing down around him. He's getting shot from so many different angles right now.
8 health left. He does manage to get the heal off. Going to try to run up here. It looks like Jempty is going to bleed out. And the shot, can he break the line of sight? Nope. Harold's going to come up over the top and find him, and that's Liquid out in 15th place.
Force in no rush now, playing the high part of the bridge and the low part of the bridge, trying to get a little bit more control over the situation. Long-range shots just connecting with W-Click, as well as Low spotting out one of the members of 4 Angry Men. Going to go ahead and flush out Forever, and that's actually going to be a couple of shots going back and forth between them, as now 4 Angry Men only has 2 members up. Rumblers have the inside track, and 4 Angry Men isn't inside the safe zone yet. They have that little bit of a wall they can play, but that's just a death trap if they have to stay there.
Yeah, Southside's been going a little bit nuts here. Crow Crowd, you can see, was also coming around to get involved in that fight as well. But we're going to cut back to the north on the bridge. Silzen is going to get taken down by Xiao Yang. This is a good fight for Entis Force coming in here. And we see the circle has popped again. And Genesis now coming over the top, maybe feeding off of all of this.
They're back behind this. They're looking back down towards Force as well as W-Click. They have the high ground, but they have to be so cautious on those peaks. Indigo is still making his way across the bridge. The other members are just trying to get any form of cover they can. So Force slow creeping around this. We do have Doya that's trying to make the cross off the side, but Kale does get spotted out. Got W-Click's Ribbox still alive, taking the shots back down towards Doya. He is the last member, but he is going to get it down off of this. He's kind of holding the line for Genesis on the low ground right now, and Force is finding themselves in a lot of trouble. There's not a lot of terrain to play around, and they are not inside the safe zone. They have to push this direction.
Heck of a shot by Rybo there, and that's going to do it for W-Click. Now Entis Force can turn their full attention onto Genesis, but
Detonator.
At this point, it might be too late.
Detonator's coming off the side of this. Look, Wicked is creeping up back behind Genesis. We see that they like to play this style. They like to get aggressive, separate out, get as much information as they can. They have another person playing that other hillside. So every time Genesis gets a little bit more aggressive on this, they have to be cautious. Wicked still playing around this, trying to locate where are the shots coming from.
Nerf.
I think he's got an idea something could be going on. Wicked does spot, take a couple of shots, gets it down on one of the Genesis members. So now Nerf trying to figure out, okay, how do we recoil from this? We've got Force back behind us, and now we have Detonator on the other side. They're getting pincered in the trap that they set up themselves.
All right, cutting back down to the south, you can see TSM is taking the shots at 4 a.m. as they try to make their way across the street, but you got to figure at this point it's either going to be Rumblers or TSM picking this up. They actually make it into this building, get it down on the wall though, but that's going to be it. Cherry popping, picking up 2. That's 6 kills for Rumblers. They coming alive here on the south side.
We got plenty of Rumblers still inside this game. I wonder if there's any of them in chat right now, but we do have Force that's still trying to creep up along the side. You can see Genesis has said, okay, this is too hot. They've backed away. Force now has a little bit more space to play around, but look at these shots coming out from Indigo on this. This is so far away. He's still on the bridge. Look at the map right now, and he's just laying into Sampty.
Just
and
absolutely
empty too.
Filthy. Absolutely filthy, but great shots. Unfortunately for the Liquid boys, that means that their day on Erangel is over. They're going to check back and see Rumblers now pushing up over the top. They're going to find QM, and that's another team dead in front of the Rumblers.
Rumblers are just walking across the southern part of the circle and killing every single thing that they encounter. And I gotta say, they're racking up a ton of points. That's gonna do so much for them inside this leaderboard. But up towards the north, it's still very contested. We haven't necessarily seen the Freaks be very active yet as of the stage. They're playing back down towards the south, and nobody's really contested that area yet. But you can see it's all about what's going on up in the north right now. Genesis couldn't move too far away from their earlier position, so it has to be very cautious.
This is kind of vintage Fatal, though. They do like to kind of hang out, play it close to the vest. A little bit slower towards the early game, but then come late game, they start to come alive. As you can start seeing they're making their moves towards the Rumblers. We check back on the north side here. Entis Force making their way into Circle. K-Mind has a nice little angle here on the Xiao Yang.
But that's the tail end, though. That's the tail end of the Force push on this angle. K-Mine's down on the lower part of this hill all by himself, and that's the angle that Force is wanting to go for. Everybody else from Genesis doesn't have the easiest rotation back to provide much support, and with the hills, those 3 members of Force could just come back up right onto K-Mine and make this a 3v1. New circle pops, and it's going to favor Atletico, AHQ, and Sting Divine. So a lot of these teams that are playing on the outside walls are going to have to make their way even further west.
All right, Entis Force does use Song Jang. Doya now has moved up a little bit closer to the K-Mine compound. Nerf was providing him a little bit of support here. Detonator has not made a push to provide any or put any pressure onto Genesis just yet, but we're going to check back with the Rumblers fight. As we said, a Freak of Freaks Fatal starting to come alive, pushing into this circle from the south side.
They have the inside track on Rumblers right now. Rumblers has to figure out how they want to adapt around this. They've been killing a ton of teams by being the team that's getting ahead of them.
TSM.
Now, TSM joining in the party as well. Force still trying to make that push back over towards K-Mine, but he did get the drop on Doya, so that's going to go ahead and provide him a little bit more space. But Nerf is down as well. Profi's just trying to run back over towards the smokes, get the res. Indigo still holding that outside angle, and Detonator is still hearing this, and they have to walk along the same path.
Should be able to get that res, though. Indigo has to leave this tree side here. K-Mine has a nice little line of sight on him. Only 21 health. Yep, and that's going to do it for Entus Force. Genesis coming up with the win there, but Detonator has now repositioned to gatekeep this squad out.
So it's going to be very difficult for Genesis to make this push across. They've denied a lot of cover with that reposition from Detonator, so Detonator just has clean sight lines back, but K-Mine taking the shots back on that similar angle. Freaks still trying to hold out TSM and Rumblers, as Rumblers are just trying to take shots at TSM in their rotation. They're down to 2 right now. Los gets dropped as well, so now it's just Cherry Poppins that's holding that outside position. Freaks are still just trying to get inside the circle and try to gatekeep out TSM off of this position, and they're kind of separated out. They keep hearing the firefight more down towards the south, so TSM's moving around towards the north.
And there goes Genesis, as we said, picked off by Detonator. Detonator still 4 strong. They have great positioning. TSM going to try to wrap around this. A Freak of Freaks Fatal, not wanting to over peak this. They don't want to lose any for free, but in doing so, they've kind of lost track of TSM.
Whenever you're playing the eastern side of this circle, that means that you are gunning for kills. The teams that are playing towards the center, towards the safety, they're just wanting to go ahead and have a position that they can hold. But not a lot of kills. AHQ hasn't been able to stack up much, neither has Atletico. But these guys on the eastern part of this circle are just constantly scrapping. Rumblers getting eliminated there, as Cherry Poppins does get spotted out. But TSM and a Freak of Freaks Fatal are right up next to each other, trying to crest this hill, going a little bit of a peak battle.
It looks like AFF is going to pull off of this just a little bit. They realize TSM does have the better position here, but they can only pull back so far because AHQ is just downhill, sending shots at their rear.
Everybody's just trying to play this out, figure out, okay, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. So peek out, see where everybody's at, then go for another reposition, because you never want to peek the same spot twice. Not in this lobby. That is the easiest way to die.
5 4-man squads still up. AHQ is the only one with 3.
So we have AHQ that's holding that. Looks like a Freak of Freaks starting to reposition back down. Detonator and TSM starting to get sight lines back towards each other, but still kind of more of a difficult terrain back towards the east because that hill is still predominantly inside of play. But back down towards the lowlands, nobody really has those clear sight lines until they have to start moving into this circle. It's just going to be people cresting up, and you can see that's how come a Freak of Freaks is just trying to bounce from terrain piece to terrain piece while covering each other.
Looks like TSM, knowing that AFF is to their south, might be trying to wrap up to the north here. Little do they know Detonator is ready and waiting. Isco going to take the shots, and that's going to be Rory going down to Wicked and flushed immediately, as now Aqua 5 is traded out by Ira.
You can see there's just no cover along this path for either one of these teams. They know they have to annihilate. One of them has to come out as the king of this fight. Aqua 5 still down back behind that. Gustav managing to stay alive off of this, but he is cowering behind the thinnest tree I have ever seen inside of PUBG and somehow clinging to life.
All it needs is to block 1 bullet. That's all we need it for. Aqua 5 does get res. Detonator up to 6 kills now. Michael has made it across the street, but Gustav and Ira still have to make their way across.
Oh, got to be careful when you're throwing those grenades around those trees. Sometimes they can bounce off of those tree limbs and catch a different angle for it. See Detonator still just trying to hold this out. Isco's trying to see if he can go for a peek onto it, but there's just damage coming in from multiple angles.
There we go.
Nice grenade coming out from Michael. Going to go ahead and get the drop onto him. You can see TSM starting to feel more control of this fight, getting a little bit more aggressive onto it. Aqua 5 still looking around the lower end of this, but no clear sight lines back over towards TSM. This is a lot of utility being used by TSM, but they have got to do it. They have to figure out how they want to play around this, but that hill is stopping everything. Now shots coming out from Freaks as they're looking back on the similar angle for it. They have a line back over towards Detonator and TSM, and they see all the smokes.
Ira was absolutely huge in that push for TSM, but unfortunately the res do come out for Detonator. Isco looks like he might bleed out now, as AFF just going to take shots through the smoke. Yeah, Isco has gone down.
Everybody can see each other in this valley
Yeah,
now. Once these
rough.
smokes start to dissipate and people run out of utility, it's just going to be shots going back and forth everywhere. Detonator still playing up towards the top of this, but you can see TSM still looking around for it. We have a freak fatal that can look off of this angle, and everybody has to be so cautious. Everybody is just behind 1, maybe 2 trees for the entirety of their team. Kari stepping up to one side of it, going for the spray, doesn't get the drop onto it, still just trying to hold back anything he can. Starting to move along this line. TSM now finding themselves in a rough spot as multiple teams are starting to take shots at him as their smoke dissipates, and yes, TSM is eliminated.
Unfortunate for the boys from TSM, but really what else could they do? They were pinned from every which angle. Athletico, you could see, trying to come in here and get a third party onto this, but they're going to get pushed back a little bit. But not before getting it down on Aqua 5.
He keeps getting dropped, and that just means he's going to take out even faster. So you can see Wicked tossing out the grenades, trying to get a little bit more space. Atletico's going to have to make a little bit of a push back over towards their last member. We've got a little bit of a building
a push from AFF
play. So it's a lot of these teams starting to get aggro. They want those third parties. They want those kills. AFF starting to come back down behind this. Not playing it too aggressive as of yet, but the res is coming through. If you can see Freak spot this out, this is going to be easy kills. There's 1, 2 down already, but the spin comes back around on the angle. Wicked's down, still on that low ground position, and really cannot provide the support he so desperately needs to.
Levi's from Sting Divine actually getting involved there. As we see NN and Shadow trying to pull off of this, they realize that they have now gotten into the line of sight of the Sting Divine squad. Wicked, can he get the res here? It doesn't look like it. That circle's pushing in. Hikari's probably just dropping some meds for him.
Looks like they just want to go for it, get the flush out, get that extra point. Pushes them up to 9 kills now. Getting a little bit feisty back down towards the south as it's going to be Sting Divine and HQ taking a couple of shots while we still have a Freaka taking those shots back over towards Wicked. Not a lot of cover pieces to play off of, and there you go. Detonator's going to go ahead and go out in 5th place. But now you can see Athletico starting to spread out inside the circle, trying to get more control. All these teams are burning so much utility. Nicky's looking back over towards AHQ. Still, he's the only one that's still up for his team right now. And Shadow is just cutting a path straight over towards Athletico. Grenades starting to come out as they move into that range. That's one member from Athletico already down and flushed.
Yeah, Sting Divine was 4 strong, but seconds ago. But a combination of Athletico and AHQ has now run him down to just Nicky. He's got 26 health left, healing in the smoke. And Freak of Freaks trying to move in here. They're playing the angles, staying out of the line of sight of Athletico for now. It's down to just 3 to the boys from Oceana.
Crawl right now. You can see Freaks just kind of a little bit more info. Nicky's holding that line, but he's going to go ahead and get dropped, and that moves us down to 3 teams remaining. AHQ back down towards the south, Afrika over towards the east, and Athletico with a big chunk that they're trying to hold down, but Extreme does get tapped off of this. He is right on the edge of the blue there, so trying to figure out what they can do. I think the Flood's trying to move into a position to see if maybe he can get in grenade range. Does manage to get Shadow down, and look, the moment he drops, Extreme starts going for the run on this. That's going to be Freaks getting taken down. Now it's Athletico looking back over towards AHQ as Flood has spotted them out.
3v3 set up here. AHQ finally having to leave their compound. They did take care of Sting Divine. They're trying to get into a spread formation here, but SR and CC already being taken out. You can see multiple lines of sight here as they are just trading shots back and forth. Nobody can get any flanking position here without the other team seeing them.
It's just clear sight lines back and forth. People playing around trees, trying to kind of reposition as much as they can without getting spotted, seeing if maybe they can get a different angle on the person hiding behind the tree on this. Nobody has control of what would be the center of the next circle as everybody, there's no terrain really that is easy to move through. So it's going to be the blue forcing these fights here in just a second.
CC, SR, Yan Lee haven't had the best of days so far today, but they were currently sitting in 8th place coming into this. Now they've set themselves up for a big win here on the last game on Erangel if they can pull it off. But Athletico, some strong, strong fraggers. We've seen what these guys can do at the GLL Slam. Can they pull it off here at PGC?
That's a confidence play. You can see SR sitting on the sniper rifle. I guess living up to his name. When your name is SR, I feel like you got to run the bolt at this point. But this is very close range. We'll have to see if it actually ends up capitalizing. As on the other team, it's DMRs. We have the ARs out. Everybody's getting ready for those close range fights. Extreme knows where SR is, but that's a very dangerous peak to take off the side of that, as they'll make him vulnerable from the other players of HQ.
Ooh. One issue right now for Athletico is they have nothing but really soft cover. They've got angles that they can work and hills that they can play around, but the boys from AHQ have hard cover. They have the trees, they have the rocks. You can see CC getting taken down a little bit low, but he has somewhere that he can hide now to get that heal off.
All right, 10 seconds. The blue's going to start forcing everyone to move, and this blue is going to tick for a ton of damage. CC is probably the closest to the blue right now, and you can see Atletico trying to creep forward an extra foot or two to see if they can make sure that HQ moves before they do. Yan Li, I think, is probably the closest towards the center, but that also makes him in the most dangerous spot. Smokes are coming out everywhere on HQ side now. That's going to be a wall to provide more cover. They're starting to move in towards that centralized location. Yan Li's starting to feel a little bit more pressure as grenades are bouncing around him, but due to the smoke wall that's come down, CC's trying to get those shots off to the side of it.
Oh, that's
Yan
a good
Li
one.
still having to use that tree. Once these smokes start dissipating, he could be in a lot of trouble. He's just trying to get any grenade he can off, trying to stop the push coming out. Atletico still playing the high side, but now Yan Li decides he's going to go aggressive, try to walk up onto this. He's just going to walk on the side of the tree. That's going to be one of them. He does manage to get dropped. He's going to go for the flush. Now we're in a 2v3. Flood looking back over towards the tree. That's another one for Yan Li. Is he going to be able to stack up another one? Flood is all by himself now, looking back towards three members of AHQ. He is surrounded. The grenade's going to roll down, and that is AHQ walking away with the win.
That is the cleanest 3v3 that you'll ever see here, as AHQ just absolutely took Atletico to school. Unbelievable play, great working the angles. Arguable that Extreme may have caught himself a little bit out in the open there with no smokes, no cover, no anything. And he just got kind of roasted, but you know, can't take anything away from the Atletico squad. They come in here with 4 kills and a second place finish, which is something that they desperately needed as they were sitting in 13th place going into this.
That's why I love military-based games. They're so just good to watch. There's so many repositions, especially when it ends off over towards the west, when everybody's having to play around those hills. God, it's just so fun to watch the top teams play in a very hard environment.
Yeah, I mean, you saw some of the great mechanical skills of these players that we have here today on full display. I mean, some of the shots on the Samty and Jempty from the bridge were just nuts. I mean, with the DMR.
That is so crazy coming out from Indigo. That was a very long range. I would say probably, what, maybe 250 meters, somewhere around there?
Well, there's a reason that Indigo was the PKL MVP. And I mean, shots like that are a reason why.
Now, here's the thing, though. We see the fact that yesterday, Ace was so great. We know that Force is good, and the desk alluded to it. I wonder how much pressure that now puts on them, that they feel like they need to be such a dominant force. They come away third position there. They get 6 kills. Not a bad start to it. They're feeling a lot more comfortable. But now we're moving into Sandhawk. And when we talk about, I don't know, military-based games being a little bit chaotic, Sandhawk, that's where everything just comes off the rails and it moves real fun, real fast.
Just a little bit chaotic. Just a little bit, but you know, I mean, if nothing else, this game was fairly chaotic in and of itself, just with having to make some split-second decisions, especially with the hillside of play.
Well, I can see the analyst desk over there. They're talking back and forth. They want to talk about this game, so we're going to go ahead and throw it to the Chloris and the rest of everybody on that analyst desk.
That's right, AHQ, after dominating PUBG Masters League in their region, constantly first and second places all year long, gets themselves the first victory on the board here for PGC. Good to see AHQ getting that. My money was a little bit on Atletico. Bold prediction, I thought they were going to get top 3 for quite a while during that game. It turns out they did. However, AHQ put a stunt in their plans a little bit.
They did. A big shout out to this team coming out of Chinese Taipei. I think they've really have stepped up here. It was kind of a tale of two teams. I feel like online, these guys have been good. They go to LAN, they sort of underperform. And part of that is I feel like they don't respect their opponents sometimes. They play a little pell-mell. But I think that worked in their favor on this one. That push against Atletico was sort of like throwing caution to the wind. They just came forward. They said, we're going to take the aggressive push on this 3v3. And you could see Ath was caught off guard when they got that flanking move. And I think it worked.
I mean, Yan Li going out with the Ironside M4 actually in the last fight. That just shows how little they actually looted before they went over to the military island and then took themselves in a good position.
Yeah.
They did take it very passive, though, until towards the end there when STV was basically next to them.
In my opinion, Atletico should have pushed a bit earlier to take the advantage to their side instead. It ended up in a 3v3 in the end. If they had pushed maybe out earlier, third party some of the fights, they could have had a bigger advantage. I know one of them tried. He got out in an off position and died early, but obviously you have to try to do something like that to open up the fight and put the advantage on your side.
It's time for the highlights here for our game 3 for the day when it comes to Erangel. And Avenger, normally when I ask you about, you know, these games and how they do go down, where you want your circle to be, at PEL you say...
Millie.
That's what you like. And you got it for the first time here this tournament.
Yeah, it's good to see. now we got one, so we don't want to see too much many more. But I like this one. This is it's good to see.
Yeah, definitely so. So let's take a look at those highlights now as we get into everything. So here we go. And obviously a lot of teams have a little bit of a harder time trying to get over to that position. But for Sun Sister at the start of the fight, it was all right.
I mean, they shot out the tire here. Lazarus did the best with what they could in that situation. They didn't expect to get caught on this road. Remember, it was a military shift, so they didn't expect 4 people to be sort of waiting for this late rotation in the Jeep. Fortunately, they had some players already in boats, and they ended up getting taken down.
First thoughts?
Overall, yeah, as you said, unfortunate for Lazarus. Also unfortunate for Liquid. They got taken out here. Very nice shots here from Lugan. Nice reactions time. But overall, we saw the center compound on the top hill being very open for a long time. Again, Atletico was on the western side for a very, very long time, just chilling out there, passive. They should have prepped with third party this fight. This fight here, DTN against the Africa Freaks, they should have third party. They try to get some points from that as well.
They were on their way to actually third party that bad. They decided, let's fall back. It's not worth it. We see the new circle, want to make ourselves get into a good, better position first.
As that flank we were talking about, as Yanli comes around and finds them in an offside, they make it a 3v2, and there's just no cover left once he takes that solo tree that was so important. But you're right, they had the push potentially. They could have third-partied, but I think it was the right call for Atletico to say, you know what? This circle, the way it came back to the hard edge, we can guarantee a top 2 and maybe a win if we just fall back and we play as 3, and I respect that. But again,